And welcome to JUCK on Bucks on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate you so much for joining me. The Buckeyes nailed Jordan Thomas, a big boom on Monday. We had the Golden JUCK Eye on the Buckeyes here at JUCK Eye Studios. I think he's been decided for a little while. On the Buckeyes and his commitment, he said they have the resources to develop me in all aspects, including my faith, character, academics, and football at the highest level. That sounds like a guy that really fits in well. The idea of playing for the national champion was too much to pass up. Love hearing that. The program is full of elite-minded individuals, defensive coaching staff full of NFL experience, and a defense that's versatile, and I have position flexibility. Called Walton and Patricia a dynamic duo, and these guys are consistently selling themselves at a really high rate to some really elite players across the country. Matt Patricia has done wonders. If you were one of the few that, not few, we had a really, really nice audience for my live show yesterday for that announcement. And unfortunately, I had an issue, which isn't, it happens often when I'm live, and I'd like to go live more. I don't understand it. When I get kicked off, I'll check the internet and it's getting like a full gig. The upload's like 35. Things are normal. I don't understand it, but I bit the bullet and ordered the Starlink system. So we'll see if the Starlink system is any better. I think I've got a little hiccup interruption in my lines or something. I don't know what it is. They can't fix it at Spectrum. So we'll give that a shot. But a very high level corner in Jacob Weatherspoon, also committed with Jordan Thomas. So now you got two top 200 guys, and this class now with 12 total guys committed. The interesting thing is Ohio State's done a tremendous job here when you look at how far in a hole they were because they played so long. They were so far behind everybody else. And I remember doing shows back then and people were getting kind of stressed. And it was like, yeah, but they're really playing from behind. I actually thought that they might, be further behind for the duration of the class until the very end. That's not the case. When we look at where Ohio State stands right now, currently with the third best class, and we look at the rest of the competition, USC is they're a total outlier. They've got 27 commitments. They've taken, obviously, they got a lot of high-level players. They got like 8 top 100 kids, but they also, half their class is 3-star kids from California where they just offered and took everybody. Everybody who could potentially get an offer in California, they took them all. So they're planning on loading up with a lot of quality, but a lot of quantity as well. Looks like they're trying to finish with about 35 or 40 kids in that class. Trying to do a whole kind of roster overhaul through recruiting, which, I mean, hey, whatever. That's your plan. Go ahead and operate with it. Notre Dame, 15 commits. Penn State was 16. Clemson, 14. Texas A&M, 11. LSU, 9. Georgia, 9. Bama, 5. So Ohio State doing great securing commitments as far as numbers. And when you look at what they've done so far, you've got 4 wide receivers. Obviously, Hartline done a fantastic job. Chris Henry Jr. leads the class, the highest rated guy in the class, 5-star, top 5 wide receiver. He'll finish at number 2, I think, as far as wide receiver rankings. And then you got the 3 others in Caden Dixon-Wyatt, a top 100, 4-star, Jaden Ricketts, a top 250, and 4-star Brock Boyd, a top 400. Pair those guys with tight end Corbin Fordham down from the Bulls School in Jacksonville. He's a top 400 type prospect. On the offensive line, blue chipper Sam Greer, 6'8", 290, out of Hoban here in Akron. Max Riley out of Avon is about 6'4", 260, 270 right now, and he'll be an interior guy. And then you got Tucker Smith out of Arizona, another 6'5", 290-pounder. And he is going to be, your project guy. The other 2 high-level blue chip guys, and we'll go over that best of the rest list. But at linebacker, you got C.J. Sana now, and Jordan Thomas and Jacob Weatherspoon join him. He's a linebacker, C.J. Sana. Jordan Thomas, Jacob Weatherspoon, corners, safety, Blaine Bradford, and Simeon Caldwell. So that's who you got in the class right now. And yesterday, we went over the 12 most wanted. We'll hit on the best of the rest. But the first thing I want to do is ask you today to please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. We are pushing for 15,000, and we're almost there. I think we'll probably wake up to about 14,900 today, which is just right there. And please like the show as well. We're cooking with gas, man. Things are going good here at JUCK Eye Studios. I am looking for a social media manager. Got to be the right fit. If you know anybody who's into that line of work, I need some help in that aspect. I'm not good at it. It's monotonous, tedious stuff, and not the show is enjoyable. I enjoy that. I don't enjoy pumping out that stuff. So you can get in contact with me anytime for anything at JUCKOnBucks at Gmail. So JUCKOnBucks Gmail if you have any ideas for that. But I do want to get into a couple of different things today. There's some Michigan stuff I want to talk about. I do want to also talk about the playoffs. There's something nobody's talking about here, and I know this topic can be boring to some, but we got to talk about this because out of conference games, as we know them, are really riding on the decision that these guys make. There's one that will absolutely destroy them. They won't matter. They will suck. And we will only really have 9 games in the regular season. That'll be the conference games. There's one decision they can make that will preserve them. And while everybody's talking about all the stuff that they may do, nobody's really hitting on this, and I've just got to. We're now currently in the 4th rendition of how we crown a national champion in college football. We went from polls to the BCS to the 4-team playoff to the 12-team playoff, and we know that's changing again soon. 5 different ways to crown a champion. And the conference commissioners and the athletic director at Notre Dame, Pete Bakabakiakia, met in New York on May 8th. They wanted to discuss the future college football playoff formats, among other things. And there's something on the table now that they absolutely have to do. So what do we know from these meetings and from where we're at here? We know that they are going to expand in 2026. They've been telling us that before we ever played the first 12-team playoff. It will expand. We know that's coming in 26. We know that in 2025, we had a screwed up way to determine the seeding. You had the top 4 conference champions getting 1 through 4. It resulted in some really unbalanced games. We all hated it, and we know that. But the contract they originally signed goes to the end of 2025. So 2 years before they can change that, unless they get a unanimous vote from everybody. Well, why would everybody give them a unanimous vote? The Big 12, the smaller conferences, the Mountain West with Boise State, they benefited from the seeding that way. So they're not going to give a yes vote on changing that to a straight seeding format unless the Big Ten and the SEC give them a reason to vote yes. That could be money. That could be a future scheduling deal between the conferences, whatever that may be. How much is the Big Ten and the SEC going to push to get that vote? Or are they just going to say, we'll just wait 1 year? And if they wait 1 more year and do it how they did it in 24, then they get control. They get to do whatever they want. And we know that it'll change then. In my opinion, probably we're in for 25 seeding looking like it did in 24. And it's annoying, but it's 1 more year. I can live with it. It doesn't fundamentally change the sport like some of these other things. So I think they'll go ahead and roll forward with that. The last time they met, they came out of that meeting and they were very close to settling on changing the playoff format to 14 teams. And what was floated was the 4-4-2-2-1-1. And that is 4 Big Ten teams, automatic qualifiers, 4 SEC automatic qualifiers, 2 ACC automatic qualifiers, 2 Big 12 automatic qualifiers, 1 group of 5, the highest rated one, and 1 at large. That 1 at large, presumably Notre Dame, if they have a decent season. I hate expanding the playoff, but if they're going to, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm more bothered by the expansion than the automatic qualifying. I think we all know that due to the conferences expanding, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get 4 anyway. Like that's, they had 4 for the Big Ten, 3 for the SEC last year in the 12-team format. And that 4 and 3, who has it, the Big Ten or the SEC, in 12 teams would bounce back and forth every year anyway. So if you move it to 14, they're going to get 4 anyway. There's no doubt about that. Though I respect people not liking that automatic qualifier, my issue I have is with out-of-conference games. When we look at the 4-4-2-2-1-1, all of your incentive to make it to the playoffs is tied into your conference standings. If there's automatic qualifiers, you need to finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten or the top 4 of the SEC. It's all tied into the conference. No conferences out of conference games for your conference standings, which means in a 14-team playoff with automatic qualifiers, there's one at-large bid, and it's usually going to be tied up by Notre Dame if they're having a decent year, and they've always got a decent schedule. So no at-large bids up for grabs. What does that mean if I'm a coach? Well, we've heard Matt Rule tell us what it means. It means those non-conference games at the beginning of the year, they need to start looking from a coach's perspective at preserving their most talented guys, not getting injured. They got a long haul ahead of them and potentially the playoffs, which means all those awesome games in week 1, week 2, week 3 that we talk about all off season that we're talking about right now. There's nothing but pride on the line. I love when my team plays for pride. We've seen how that works with bowl games, though. It doesn't work out like that. We've seen how they treated them. If we look at this week 1 coming up, Jeremiah Smith in a system where you only advance to the playoffs with your conference standings, he isn't playing against Texas. Ryan Day's not risking Jeremiah Smith in a game that has no consequence. DJ Lagway at Florida, he's not playing in his out-of-conference game. Arch Manning, he might play the first half at Ohio State. Those are all now exhibitions. We've seen what that looks like in the bowl games. It's awful, but the coaches are just not going to take the risk in what is essentially an exhibition game. There are a few ways to counteract this, to make those games meaningful. We heard one proposal from Josh Pate, and he floated having each conference have a committee, like we have the playoff committee. And they look and they pick their teams that their conference is going to nominate for the playoffs with a committee format, which means they take in the out-of-conference games and they take all that information for the whole season and decide. I think that is actually a pretty good idea, because now when you also take in those out-of-conference games into account, you can take in the scheduling differences, and we've seen how drastically different those schedules are in the regular season with the expanded conference. How do you fix that? I don't know, but a committee in every conference does. The issue is, I don't think that's something that's ever going to happen, and if it does, it's a long way off. You can immediately fix this entire thing. I was not for expanding from 4 to 12. I'm not for expanding to 14. But now it has to be 16. You absolutely have to go to 16 teams. And believe me, I hate it. I didn't want to go to 12. But it's got to be 16 and not 14. What is the structure if you go to 16? It's the same as 14. The 14 is the 4-4-2-2-1-1. One at large. In the 16 team, 4-4-2-2-1, 3 at large. Now, if there are 3 at large bids, and I'm Matt Rule, and I'm looking at my conference schedule, you get in the playoffs by doing well in your conference, but there's also those 3 at large bids, which means if I finish 5th in my conference, I've got a chance at an at large bid. What's the best way to get me over the hump to win that at large bid? A big out of conference win. And there are 3 up for grabs. So now those out of conference games are huge, as big as they ever were. And that is why you must go to 16. If you don't go to 16, they die. If you go to 14, it's over for the out of conference. If you go to 16, they're just as important as they always were. Do I think 16 teams deserve to have a chance to win a national championship? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think 14 do either. So going to 16 to me is, it's the pain I got to deal with 2 extra teams to make sure I preserve the out of conference games. So I'm okay with it, because there's nothing I can do about this thing growing, but it's got to go to 16. It absolutely has to, or the first 3 weeks of the season are going to be like the NFL preseason. It's going to be terrible. It really is. This is where we're at now, guys. This is where we're at. And we've gone from competing to a national champ. Look, we're going to have 4 lost teams in the playoffs in college football now. And I know that doesn't bother some people, but the speed with which we went, needing to basically have a perfect season to win a national championship, to a 4-game team in the playoffs, you don't believe me. Listen, you know what else they're floating is not just the 4 conference champions, but the conferences doing away with conference championship weekend and changing it to basically, I'm the Big Ten. I can decide which 4 of these teams I take. So what I'm going to do is take the first 2 teams. They can play a conference championship game, or they can have a bye and we can just give the conference championship to the first place team. But the number 3 seed is going to play the 6, and the winner of that will expand. And the number 4 team is going to play the 5, and the winner of that will expand. Well, how does that sound to you? It sounds like an exciting weekend. Of course it does. Let's take a look at the Big Ten last year and see how that would have looked like in a bracket. Here is the Big Ten bracket in 2024. You've got Oregon at 9-0, Penn State at 8-1. They're your 1 and 2 seed. Now, they can either play and you can get a conference champion that way, or you can give them both the week off and they both advance, and Oregon is the undisputed champion. The 3 seed will play the number 6 seed. That is 8-1 Indiana playing 6-3 Iowa. Ohio State 7-2. The 4 seed playing 6-3 Illinois. Now, what are the issues here? 6-3 Iowa was 8-4 in the regular season. That is a 8-4 team. And that 8-4 team is now 1 win, 1 fluky win for making it to the playoffs. And that Indiana team, who compiled an 11-1 regular season, they're currently 8-1 in the Big Ten. They are potentially 1 loss to a team that's totally unworthy from getting left out of the playoffs. And you could say, in this instance, that doesn't really bother me because Indiana played a really bum Big Ten conference last year, and I'll concede that point. The problem is, so did Iowa. And Iowa's 6-3 in their bum schedule. And we're going to run into this. And we're going to run into a team like Iowa knocking off a team like Indiana, who had a great regular season, and they're going to end up getting left out. And that, I don't know, man. I just don't know how that's acceptable to anybody, man. I don't get how that is a thing that's okay. That this this Iowa team has a chance to make it into the playoff when just a few years ago, you could lose 1 game tops. And if you were a top brand name team, you would make it in to play for a championship, to going to a 4-loss team now has an opportunity to win 1 stinking game, and they're in. I don't like it. It looks like that's the way it's going. Now, don't get me wrong. That'll be an exciting weekend, but here's the difference. When I, and probably you, are watching games like this or a conference championship game, say you're watching Clemson versus Virginia Tech in the ACC championship game, who are you rooting for? You're rooting for the dog. You're rooting for the underdog, right? In this particular scenario, we're not rooting for the underdog. If the underdog wins and makes it to the playoffs, we've got a crappy playoff with bad matchups because we know that Iowa isn't getting out of the first round and they aren't competing with anybody now. We found out Indiana can't either. However, you get my point here. I don't want the Iowas of the world in the playoff giving somebody else an easy first game. So that's my issue with this. Unfortunately, it looks like that's what we're going to. And I'm willing to accept all of this. I'm willing to accept the automatic qualifiers. I'm willing to accept that the regular season is based on now we've got to do really good in our conference. I'm willing to accept that they're going to imply this playoff system to get in the conference or get in the playoffs from your conference. I'm willing to accept it all. The only thing I'm not willing to accept is a 14-team playoff that kills my enjoyment of the first 3 weeks of the season in those great out-of-conference games. Look at the first week of games, guys. You've got Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Miami, LSU, Clemson, Alabama, Florida State, Tennessee, Syracuse looks exciting, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Auburn, Baylor, Georgia Tech, Colorado. That sounds exciting. All the way down the list. All these games going to look like bowl games, crappy ones where nobody plays. That's what happens if they go to 14. So that's the bottom line. I'll accept it all, but you got to go to 16. You absolutely must go to 16. 3 at-large bids preserves all those games. Somewhat watered-down playoff in the end, but that's where we're at now. It's going to be like the NFL, and there's no way to stop that. You just got to preserve the out of conference. So that is why I had to talk about that today. I apologize for those of you who are uninterested, but you got to know. You got to know this stuff. Now, Michigan fans in a rut, buddy. They are in a rut. Now, we have talked about this thing for a couple of years now, and they have been so arrogant as usual, right? That nothing is going to happen to them. And it is interesting the way we've seen their tone kind of shift since Sharon Moore got suspended by Michigan for 2 games. All of a sudden, they're shaking in their boots that something is actually going to happen. They thought nothing was happening. Now it's pretty clear to them that something is going to happen. And since he already got 2 games by Michigan, we can all assume, including them, that something more than that will happen. Now, I don't know what you would consider the hammer is. I don't know what everybody probably has their own definition of what that is. But a bowl ban of any sort, a postseason ban of any sort, certainly sounds like a hammer to me. There are some of them that are clinging on to this thing that the playoffs are different than the NCAA and they don't have jurisdiction. I promise you that if the NCAA says you have a postseason ban, that the powers at the college football playoff will cooperate with that and they will, in fact, ban them as well. So there might not be technical jurisdiction there. They're walking lockstep on this thing. There's no doubt about it. When we talk about the past and vacating wins and people saying, like, nobody cares because you saw it happen. Again, they absolutely care. They absolutely care because we all know what it's like when someone, like, let's just say, for instance, you got them out there calling Ohio State's national championship a Mickey Mouse national championship. Everybody cares what the rest of college football thinks about their accomplishments. Everybody does. And if there is retroactive games that get wiped out, it diminishes the accomplishment in the eyes of many. It takes away the shine from the national championship. And it's basically a stamp of approval that the people who have seen all the evidence have said that this season does not count. These games were not won fairly. And everybody says, okay, that was a nonsense cheating championship. And that's important to those who think that it was a cheated championship. And it's important to those of them, whether they saw it or not, because they don't want everybody to believe that. So it is important. I'll pull up some comments right now. This is from the Michigan blog, one of their fan sites. And also a question. Ward Manuel sticking by Charlie Baker's comment that Michigan won the national championship fair and square. Okay, so that protects the 2023 season. He's very, very wrong about that comment. He totally didn't understand what he was saying. Charlie Baker was saying from the point Stallions left through the remainder of the season was fair and square. Did not say the national championship season was a fair and square national championship. He goes on. But is Michigan prepared to fight at all costs the NCAA change courses at the last minute and threaten vacating wins to protect the 2021 and 2022 seasons as well, as vacating a thing would be so beyond devastating, and I would lose it and not watch college football again. 21, 22, and 23 mean the world to me and my maize and blue family and must be protected at all costs. Even if you had to take a postseason ban, but it should not come to that. A few things. The administration is not going to fight and never was going to. I hate to say it, but I could see vacated wins, a postseason ban, etc. at this point. The NCAA knows they can do what they want, and M will settle. Self-imposing a suspension prior to the June meeting was weak and a huge mistake. This administration hanging Sharon out to dry will haunt them in the long run if he's successful, and he will be. He will remember this for a long time. I'm struggling with understanding what the wrong here is. And perhaps it's because I don't fully understand what the word deleted means. How can Sharon Moore be charged with deleting texts that he ultimately turned over? If he deleted them, they would no longer exist. If he turned them over, then he never deleted them. Am I missing something? At worst, he temporarily relocated the text to a different electronic location. But is relocating tests illegal? That's a beauty right there. Then you got our guy, Yoder. James Yoder is a Michigan podcaster. a pretty entertaining one, a pretty straight up shooter. He doesn't speak the nonsense. Sometimes he does in a joke, but he's a realist. He understands what's really going on. He doesn't pump up every Michigan player is better than every Ohio State player. Like he's a real dude. Here's what he has to say.
Vacated wins, but I think a bowl ban could be 50-50 at this point, right? I don't know. I mean, I feel that Michigan's trying to get ahead of that, but that's what the NCAA seem to historically have done. They want to give you a 1-year bowl ban, sometimes 2-year bowl ban, but I don't think they would go that far if they're going forward, because that's punishing future players who weren't a part of that 3-year run that they're trying to punish.
So now we're talking about prominent Michigan folks who cover the program saying that a bowl ban is 50-50. They went from nothing's going to happen to talking about bowl bans and wins being stripped away. And it is such a great comeuppance, man. Now, here's Joel Klatt, who lost a lot of Ohio State fans in the way he's defended this entire thing, said it didn't matter, didn't affect results on the field. He's now reeling, and he has pointed his arrow now at the NCAA for the length of the process, as if this surprises anybody. They're always this long. And he starts talking about, we need to change the way we govern college football. That's great. We all know that. That's not the issue here, but he's making it the issue because he's reeling. He's reeling that he's been wrong this whole time.
Going into 2025, and we're talking about Michigan trying to get out ahead of what the NCAA is still impending, or whether they're impending meeting in the summertime. This is no way to govern the sport. Your internet's not slow. That's just the NCAA moving around at a sloth's pace. It's infuriating how slow the NCAA is, how bureaucratic the NCAA is, because we're, again, 2 years removed, and there are players on the Michigan team that had nothing to do with this. Nothing whatsoever. Did some of these coaches? Obviously. Should they be punished? Probably. And will they? Likely. So that's that.
I get so sick of the argument that these kids had nothing to do with it, therefore we can't punish it. Who are you going to punish? You can't punish the guys who are already gone. Well, you did. You punished Harbaugh and all his San Diego crew, but it doesn't have any teeth because they're not in college football. Every kid there that didn't have anything to do with it also willfully signed to play at Michigan, knowing this was hanging over Michigan's head. And if they chose to ignore that or listen to the people that said nothing was going to happen, well, that's a valuable life lesson. That's a valuable life lesson for those professional athletes. I'm sorry, I don't feel bad. They can pick up and transfer right now anytime they want. So, yeah, you have to punish the school. And this guy talking about, no, it's the NCAA, diverting the issue here. We know the NCAA takes forever. I'm so sick of I'm so tired of this. Just let it go away. No, now is money time. We've waited all this time. Now it's time to talk about this. Now is when they get their comeuppance. And I want to talk about one other thing when it comes to these guys. They've been running around calling Ohio State's championship a Mickey Mouse championship and saying that they won the last real national championship. We've had, coming up soon, 5 different ways to crown a national champion, from the polls to the BCS to the 4-team, 12-team, soon to be 14 or 16-team. 5 different ways. They chose that it's the one in the middle. The one in the middle, the 4-team one, that was the last real one. Okay, fine. There's only one program in the history of college football that has won every single one of them, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes. And by the way, if they change the format after 2026, if Ohio State repeats, Ohio State will have been the only program that can ever do that again. The only program that can ever say, we've won a national championship in every single format college football has ever had. Because there will only have been 2 years of a 12-teamer, and Ohio State would have been the only one to ever win that. Another big bonus if you repeat. But when we talk about their season, their national championship season, that Michigan team beat Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, and Alabama, 4 top 10 teams. Ohio State beat 6 of the 8 top teams in the country and did 4 back-to-back with no break. Never been done before, never will be done before. The next time we see a team win that many games against that many high-ranked teams will be a very, very rare thing in college football, because you have to have, number one, the toughest draw in the entire bracket, and then execute that. Nobody else is going to have the opportunity. You have to have 2 top 5 wins out in the regular season, and then, which obviously that's rare too, and then you have to have the opportunity to have the toughest draw in the bracket and then execute it. So they're running around saying we're going to see that every year. The hell you will. You are not going to see that every year. You're going to see that once every 20 years. And I can't wait till we see the next national champion so we can pull that up and say, oh, we were going to see this every year, I thought. But they'll see. They're too dumb to figure that out right now. Anyway, sorry about my rant on that. Let's move on. All right. Well, sorry, guys. The show got away a little bit from me. I was not intending on going this long on that stuff. I was going to do the best of the rest. The best of the rest, meaning we had our top 12 most wanted men, then the best of the rest at each position. Unfortunately, that's going to take, a lot longer than I have time for now. So what we are going to do is go into some of your comments. I haven't gone into the comments section for a couple days. So I pulled a few of yours that I wanted to hit on, and we'll start with my buddy Dan, who says, what's up with Lanning stealing your moniker and my love handles? And of course, he's talking about this.
You ready, Coach?
Let's get it.
My moniker, Dan's love handles. Now, Anthony, like my children, didn't quite understand that I wasn't. Here's what he says. Anthony says, sorry, buddy, you definitely didn't come up with let's get it. That's been around for as long as I can remember. He must not have heard me tell this story before. But my kids, who I like to embarrass, they thought that I really believed that I made up let's get it. We would go out in public or something, and if I would hear someone say let's get it on a show or anything, I would say to them, they must watch my show. And they really believed that I thought that I made that up. And they would argue with me, Dad, I've heard people say that for long. And no. I came up with that. It's my catchphrase. They must watch the show. And I really had them and you, Anthony, believing that I actually thought that I made that up. Anyway, let's move on. This is from an episode I did about the biggest disappointments in Ohio State history. And Auntie says, what? No JTT or Sawyer. Those dudes only had one memorable game each and had each other at the same time. Now, I know that Jack Sawyer and JT have received a lot of grief over the years. They definitely did not live up to their top 5 in the country ratings, right? That's for sure. They didn't live up to that. They were a second and fourth round pick. You're supposed to be a lottery, a top 10 pick when you're rated that high. Their careers at Ohio State didn't live up to that ranking. But those were two. If we take the ranking away, forget the expectation, just take the ranking away. Those weren't disappointing careers. Those were multi-year starters. Those were guys who had left their career having started for multiple years and won a national championship. To put those on the same list as the guys we were talking about in that show is just asinine, Auntie. It's crazy. I get that we might have been a little disappointed by their careers based on the expectations, but those are legendary Buckeyes, man. Senior year, came back, won a national championship. I'm just way on a different track than you when it comes to those guys. Burke the Wolverine says, Juck, this is my first comment to you. Thank you for leaving a comment. I'm a diehard Michigan fan. We couldn't tell. I just want to say, why don't you have a Wolverine helmet? Come on, bro. We are your rivals. You have an Oregon helmet, but not a Wolverine helmet. Please tell me you don't want Oregon as your main rival. I mean, I don't get to pick who the main rival is. If I could, I wouldn't change a thing because I think the rivalry is just perfect. I think it's something that both schools benefit greatly from. It's unique in American sport. I love the fact that my favorite team has a rivalry that is something that everybody else in college football talks about. And my team gets to be part of that. And I get to be part of that. And I live it kind of every day. I really live it now that I'm, somewhat more people see what I'm talking about. I live it even more. So I love it. That said, helmets cost a lot of money, bro. They cost a lot of money. And I've had the thing in the cart, I swear. But every time I go to pull the trigger and I think, wait a minute, are you seriously about to spend that money on that just to have it in the background of the show? There's just something that says, no, I can't pull the trigger. I can't spend money on that. Are you kidding? If somebody wants to donate it, I might stick it next to, head to head with the Buckeye helmet, but I'm not buying it. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Henry Dion says, there are no big Christians. There are just Christians. And Georgia's Elio Mendoza from Army is even more of a culture fit. So watch your insinuations, bucko. Now, what Henry's talking about is we did a show talking about Tyler Atkinson, the transfer from North Carolina. Tyler, knowing what was going on at Ohio State, going to fit in because he's a big Christian guy. I didn't say it, Henry. He said it. He said I'm a big Christian guy, bucko. And you are banned. You can go watch something else. I don't like your attitude. Steven says, the plates are out of camera range, so I will show you the plate, Steven. H8TSUN, hate the state up north, the school up north. And most thought that I was saying, why do you hate the sun, Juck? Yeah, why do I hate the sun? So that is where it is. That is my favorite Ohio State logo right there, too, which is no longer on the license plate. You can't get it. And I can't find it on a shirt. Matter of fact, after we did that episode, I went looking for it. I can't find it on any shirt, any piece of memorabilia, nothing. But the crazy thing is I could find just about every other logo. I can find the one from 87 to 91 that's called the Sprint O. I can find every other Ohio State logo. I can't find that one. And that's the one that's my favorite. It's an automatic buy. Whenever I see it, cannot find it. Now, we got a really interesting one here. So our buddy Adam says, another great show, Juck. We need to finally break through and win some of these dudes on the lines of scrimmage. Seems like we are always on the right there, but never bring any home, a.k.a. David Sanders, Dylan Stewart. Last thing, out of those 12, how many do you think we actually land? I'd be happy landing 6+. I say we need to land 6 to 8 of those guys, and it's a class comparable to 2021, which got me thinking, what if we did land 6 to 8? How comparable would it be? So I got to digging. Now, first, going through the list real quick, we had Jordan Thomas, Braylon Womack, Tyler Atkinson, Sincere Johnson, P.J. Dean, Luke Waffle, Carter Meadows, Deuce Geralds, Jameer Perez, Felix Ojo, Darius Gray, and Savion Hyder. Now, we've nailed Jordan Thomas, so we got one. And I think that we can get 8 of these guys. I mean, I think we can get more, but realistically, I'm going to say 8. So here's who I think the Buckeyes end up with. I'm not putting the official Golden Juck guy on them, but I think that the Buckeyes will get Braylon Womack, Sincere Johnson, P.J. Dean, Jameer Perez, Deuce Geralds. Those ones I feel very confident about. A little less confident on Felix Ojo, Tyler Atkinson. So I think the Buckeyes are going to get 8 from that list. Of course, they've already got Jordan Thomas. So 8 guys. And if they were to land those 8 guys, when we bring them into the class, what Ohio State currently has committed in the class, that would give Ohio State 5 5-stars and 10 top 100 players. 5 5-stars, 10 top 100 players. And that still would be hammered by the class of 2021, which was just ridiculous, with 7 5-stars and 14 top 100 players. That class had 8 players in the top 50 in the country. That's absurd. I don't know that we'll ever beat it. I doubt we ever will, but this one would, be pretty doggone good. 5 5-stars, something you don't see too often. So that would be pretty awesome. But could there be a way if you even landed all of them? Let's see. I didn't have Luke Waffle on there, committed to the Buckeyes. If we land Luke Waffle, that's matter of fact, he's not even a 5-star. Carter Meadows, if we landed Carter Meadows, he's a 5-star. Darius Gray is a 5-star, so you could juice it up with that, and Savion Hyder. So you could get to 8 5-stars. It's possible to get to 8 5-stars. And I think on my best of the rest, there's some guys there that could boost that up to get to the 14 top 100. But man, that class of 2021, if those guys did not win a national championship, that would have been one of the probably the best class in college football history that never really won anything. And luckily, they got it right at the gun. So I appreciate you guys. Tomorrow, we will get to the best of the rest on that list we're talking about. A lot of people liked the 12 Most Wanted episode. Appreciate you guys for your compliments on that. It was a lot of hard work putting all that stuff together, but glad I did, and we'll do the best of the rest tomorrow, and I'll talk to you then. Jug and Bucks out.